with the indictment of Castro. So they've a lot of people have suffered very big, very at levels that few people would understand. And I think the Cuban population of Miami and certainly beyond Miami, people that came there that were decimated, whose families were ruined, appreciate what the Attorney General just did. We have a lot of people there. We had the CIA there.
That's President Trump at Joint Base Andrews yesterday on ex-Cuban President Raul Castro being indicted by the DOJ. The charges include murder and conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals. It's connected to his alleged role in the 1996 downing of 2 planes where 4 men were killed, including 3 Americans. President Trump said this when asked if there's any further action coming for Cuba.
What's coming next for Cuba?
It's a failing nation. You see that. It's falling apart. They have no oil. They have no money. It's a failing nation, so I just can't tell you that. But we're there to help.
Should we expect any escalation here, or should they expect anything? Yes.
No. No, you won't. There won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be.
Cuban-born Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez praising Castro's indictment, writing this: justice has been delayed for decades, but the Cuban dictatorship must finally answer for its crimes. As the only Cuban-born member of Congress, this is deeply personal to me. Those who murder Americans and terrorize innocent people will be held accountable. Joining me now, the man himself, Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez. Congressman, good to see you. I know you and several other colleagues sent a letter back in February requesting this action to be taken. How are you feeling today after the indictment, and what more do you want to see?
I feel good about the indictment. It sends a clear message to, the Cuban dictator and the Cuban regime that President Trump is serious. There's a new sheriff in town. Look, I was on the Orange Bowl back in 1996, and Madeleine Albright, then the Secretary of State under Clinton, went in, and it was a massive rally after this downing. Made some strong statements and said that they were going to take care of it, and then nothing happened. For 30 years, nothing happened, and it just wasn't right. Raul Castro ordered the downing of 2 small planes with 3 American citizens and 1 American resident that were in it. All they were doing was looking for rafters that were trying to make it across the Florida Straits, that were trying to escape from Cuba and get to Florida and get to freedom. That's all they were doing. And Raul Castro shot them down. And that's an act of murder, and he should pay the price.
Mm-hmm. So the president said it's a failing nation. What is it going to take, do you think, to get Cuba back?
Look, every night there are demonstrations now. There are no lights in Cuba. If you look at satellite imagery from Cuba at night, you see some lights in Havana, and that's about it. The rest of the island is dark. They are short on food, short on medicine, short on oil, short on electricity, and the people are starting to, they're done with it, and they want freedom, they want change. This regime is not going to go away on its own, but I believe there's going to be a lot of pressure internally for change, and I think that we just need to keep on doing what we're doing as far as the pressure on the regime to see this change happen.
Now, let me get your take on Iran right now, Congressman, because Reuters is reporting that the Iranian Supreme Leader says uranium must stay in Iran. Their uranium must stay in Iran. President Trump said that negotiations with Iran are in the final stages, suggesting a possible agreement to restart peace talks in the near future. President Trump reiterated his plan to strike Iran if no deal is reached, however, and he'll wait a few days in order to get the right answer, Congressman. What are your thoughts on the status of the Iran war?
Look, I've been watching this regime for 47 years, and they do the same thing. This is the same thing. Their whole playbook is just delay, 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 and try to wear us down with that. And so when he says that they're not going to give up their nuclear material, I mean, that's one of the linchpins of what the president wants. We can never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And so if they're saying that, I believe that they're stalling. And so, I just don't have high hope for a negotiated settlement to this. They don't negotiate. And when they do, even if they do negotiate, they lie. And so they just wait us out, have another administration, maybe one that's not as tough on them as the Trump administration is and this president is, and then do what they want to do, which is obtain a nuclear weapon. And we can see with what they're doing right now with the Straits and all that they can never have a nuclear weapon, or else they'll hold that, and hold the whole world hostage with that capability. And so that's the number one thing. We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. And if they won't budge on that, then I think that we're going to have to finish the job.
Well, look, obviously President Trump's agenda was spot on to put national security at the center of that agenda. And, Congressman, given where the world is, the president has requested an increase in defense spending for the 2027 budget. Now, the last time you and I spoke, you told me you thought $1.5 trillion for a defense budget was excessive. Do you stand by that today?
No, I didn't say it was excessive. I just think it's hard to get to. Because of our financial condition. If we had all the money in the world, I'd say, yeah, I think that's the right number. But we don't have all the money in the world, so we're going to have to make some tough choices. And so, I'm not sure we're going to get to $1.5 trillion. That's a 50% increase in our defense spending. Do we need it? Yeah, probably do. But again, we're going to have to make some tough choices to bring that number somewhat down. Look, it's not just about Iran. It's really about China. China is our pacing threat, and we need to stay ahead of China. That's why we need to spend more money on defense. I'm not saying we can't spend more money on defense. We do. I'm not sure we can get to $1.5 trillion.
Well, thank you for that. And you're right. China is our #1 adversary. And I spoke to Jensen Huang about that in my interview this morning, because he wants to send chips on AI to China. And we're wondering if, in fact, the Chinese are going to allow the H200 chip to get in there. But all of these are decisions that you and your colleagues are considering as you put together the Reconciliation 2.0. For immigration, and then consider another reconciliation package before the midterms. Now, talking about this skinny immigration funding bill, do you believe it'll get passed this weekend?
I certainly hope so. It needs to. We need to fund ICE. We need to fund CBP, and we need to fund it past, just a couple of cycles. We need to get it to the end of the Trump administration, because if not, the Democrats are going to hold us over our head, and they're stuck that they will never, ever fund ICE, and they will never, ever fund Customs and Border Protection, because they want open borders, okay? And so this is a really great indication. If the Democrats actually get back in power, if you liked 10 million illegal immigrants coming into the United States, then they're the party for you. But if you want border security, it's the Republican Party that's going to, give you that, because this is a great indication how the Democrats are going to rule. And we need Customs and Border Protection, and we need ICE enforcement in the United States.
Right, and you don't have any assistance from the Democrats. I mean, they're trying to stop President Trump at every turn. The president just told us that we're going to see something very special from the reflective pool at the White House for the big America 250 celebration on July 4th. Even that is unnerving Democrats, which is exactly what Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman told me on Sunday. Watch this.
The reflecting pool in the ballroom, I don't care about those things. I think it's entirely appropriate. So far, the reflecting pool looks good. But if that's $13 million, that's small. President Obama, correctly, he invested $34 million to make some upgrades. I mean, America's turning 50 years old. Why wouldn't we want to make sure everything looking great? Right. And now we do need a ballroom. We do. I mean, I think we have, much bigger fish to fry. So I'm saying build it or not. And that's where I'm at. But not just because the president asks for one doesn't mean I'm going to oppose it necessarily. Well, it's like a convergence, here in our country. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up being the only Democrat to refuse to shut the DHS down. We have tens of millions of Americans and tens of millions of foreign citizens coming to our country right now with the World Cup right now. And now, whether my friend Mark Wayne or anyone could confirm that this stupid shutdown set things back and made us less safe.
That's right.
We never walked away with any kinds of reforms and ICE that, we all maybe would have wanted those things. Yeah. But that's why I refused to shut it down and make us less safe.
I mean, Congressman, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about such serious matters, a $1.5 trillion potential defense budget, communist China on the march, Cuba, you know, Russia, Ukraine, and Iran. And here we have your colleagues on the left worried about a $13 million paycheck for the improvements of the pool.
Well, because it's if Trump wants it, it must be bad.
That's
and
right.
that's just the way it is. That if Trump wants it, it must be bad, and we have to fight it because we are fully infected with Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, completely, 100%. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
and I'm with Ashley Davis this morning. And Ashley, we expect the immigration reconciliation package to be on the president's desk as soon as next week, as the floor debate begins today. The Republicans have to keep moving forward because they don't have any support on the left.
Absolutely. And Congressman, I'm trying to figure out how we land this plane here, because what I'm hearing coming out of the Senate this morning is, you know, there's this big meeting at 11 o'clock because there's a lot of senators. There's an attendance issue. There's also some problems with the judgment fund that was talked about from the president, and then also because the ballroom funding's out. Do you think they land this plane and then send it over to you guys, or do you think this gets punted till June?
Look, I hope we need to land the plane, and we need to, you know, if there are some things that are problematic, this was always supposed to be a very skinny bill that really focused on ICE and Customs and Border Protection, those things. That you could add a couple of things, great. But if it's going to slow it down, then I think you just go ahead and, you know, work that out sometime later, get back to the original purpose, give us a reconciliation that is very narrow, just about this, so that we can fund ICE and CBP through the Trump administration years, and then we move on to the other issues that we have that we're facing as a country. And so that's what I really would like to see, and get it done as quickly as possible.
And do you think that voters understand this, and will they be with you come November? I mean, the president's political power was on full display this week as all of the Trump-endorsed and Trump-backed primary candidates dominated the voting booths. In Texas, we just spoke with Ken Paxton. Kentucky, Thomas Massey is out. Alabama, Tommy Tuberville there, among other states. So, Congressman, what are you expecting from the midterm elections, and do you believe that the fortunes of the GOP have changed in terms of the expectations to hold on to the majority or not?
Well, look, if you had asked me about 3 weeks ago, I was a little bit more pessimistic than I am today. I think that we can hold on to the majority. We may even increase the majority, but certain things have to happen. And one of the things that has to happen, we have to have the end of the Iranian war, with Iran never been able to obtain a nuclear weapon, the straits open again, and then gas prices start to fall. And when that happens, then the economy is going to take off. And look, we're 5-6 months away from the midterm. In politics, a month is eternity. And so all these things have to happen. And if they do, then I think that the Republican Party is going to be just fine.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure's mine.
Carlos Gimenez. Quick break, and then we've got New York gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman here on the state of the race in New York, the issues facing the Empire State. Wait till you hear what he has to say. You're watching Mornings with Maria, live on Fox Business.